Hall of Fame broadcaster Marty Brenneman here, and he's the best storyteller in the game, and it's time to sit back, relax, and have some laughs. Welcome to the Mayor's Office, and here's your host, Sean Casey.
Boom, Chinch. Back at it, my man.
We are back at it. I'm very excited. We have somebody here who, on paper, can be very unlikable. Here's why. Because he's a very good-looking man. He's jacked. He was a phenomenal baseball player who hit bombs. But the problem with this guy that we're having on right now is that he is the single nicest guy on the planet. So you might get a little conflicted at home. However, we are very excited to have the guy on who we have on today, right?
Dude, that's a great way to kind of bring it in. But I want to bring in some of his stats, too, because obviously we know him as a great friend of ours and one of the best human beings and most jacked people you ever meet in your life. That's a side note on this awesomeness right here. This is his 8th year as an MLB Network analyst, which is absolutely phenomenal. So we're colleagues. First round pick of the Rangers in 2001. Played for the A's, the Tigers a little bit, and then the party they went to Boston in 06, but the party got started for this guy with Tampa Bay in 07, which is crazy. He was in Tampa 07 to 2010, and then he ran the gamut at the end. Cubs, Rays, Astros, Royals, Rangers. 286 career home runs, over 800 ribbies, was an All-Star in 2009, Gold Glove 2008, Silver Slugger, AL Comeback Player of the Year 2007, led the league in home runs 2009, Cape Cod League MVP 97. We could go on and on, but let's just bring in our man right here, Carlos Peña, baby. What's up, Los?
What's up, guys? Man, I'm so pumped to be here right now with you. I was starting to get jealous. I'm like, when am I going to I'm being honest.
we were waiting for the right time, bro. We figured this is the perfect time to bring you in. Where are you, bro, right now?
I'm in Chicago right now. We're gonna do Marquee Sports Network, checking out the Cubbies here in Wrigley Field, the cathedral of baseball.
I love it, dude. And you played 1 year for Chicago, right? Like, what was that like being a home player? I always wondered that. I came in as a visiting player all the time. What was that like being a home player for the Chicago Cubs?
It's absolutely awesome because I'm going to be honest. That year, we did not do well. Yet, the park was absolutely packed every single day, every single night, which I thought was absolutely awesome. So they love the Cubbies here in Chicago, and they're very loyal. Just going to the park is an experience for the Cubs fans. So it was so much fun. And look, one of the things that we must say is that Wrigley Field with so much history, just to be able to put on the uniform. Come on, man. I remember when I first walked up the little jetway or whatever, going up and seeing Wrigley Field for the first time, I was like, this is baseball heaven, to be quite honest. To put on that uniform, that was one of the things that I'm most proud of in my career.
Dude, I always get the question, hey, what's the best place you ever played? And I always say, well, playing at Wrigley as a visiting player was unbelievable because, like you said, it was like a party every night, no matter what. And I also say Fenway. Now, you got a chance to be a home player for both those parks. Which one was better?
All right. Yeah, I'm glad you asked because Fenway Park holds a very special place in my heart. Remember, I grew up in the Northeast. So when I was over there in Haverhill, Massachusetts, all I dreamt about was being part of the Red Sox and playing in Fenway Park, and I could literally, people don't believe this, but I could literally, you can draw me, blindfold me, put me on a chair, put me in the middle of Wrigley Field during a ball game or in the middle of Fenway Park, and I could tell you where I'm at, like without even being able to see just because of the smells of the game. And Fenway Park, man, it's one of those that I could easily tell because I grew up breaking into it, I by the way,
tell us about that, bro. How'd you break into Fenway Park? Tell us how you broke in.
Remember, I went to school, so Haverhill, even during when I was in college, I had a spot by the right field bleachers, man, that I fit through. Now, I cannot get arrested for this anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. I walked, just basically like a normal fan, and there is a spot that there was a gap where I could go sideways and slip into Fenway Park. And I would just do it as matter of factly. I mean, I'm coming clean.
were you with a couple buddies? Like, would you?
Yeah. We used to do that together. I wouldn't do it. I think having the group made it easier to kind of like blend. And it was smooth. It was just like we're walking by, and then whoop, we're in Fenway Park. We're inside Fenway Park.
Oh my God! So what will you do for seats? You just standing room only? You just walk around and get hot dogs and hamburgers all the time?
This is so funny. Now that I look back at it, my high school colors were brown and gold. All right. So we had this like very bright, yellow gold on the sleeves. We had the brown, very distinct jacket. And my goal was to get on TV. So when you break into Fenway and that spot, you were in the bleachers. Fine. I'm in the right field bleachers. But I would bring this very, very distinct jacket. And when anyone hit a home run to right field into the bleachers, I would try to get him to highlight because I could find my jacket. So basically what I'm saying is I was on TV many, many times.
That's crazy.
Before I made it to the big leagues, before I got out and working on TV, I was there because I could go and watch the highlights and I could see the brown and gold jacket fighting for the baseball, bro. Unbelievable. And I actually recorded those on VHS. Like, record. There I am. Every single time I went for the home run. So yeah, it was in the bleachers, but hey, it was great, man. I had a great time out there.
That's so great, dude. That's so great. Who'd you root for back then? Like, who were the guys you like? The Red Sox players. Like, I want to be that guy.
Well, Mo Vaughn.
Mo.
He had a many balls into the bleachers, man. So I was very grateful.
He got you on TV. He got you on TV many times.
Got me on TV. I was in the highlight, all over the highlights. Garcia Parra was huge, but you remember John Valentin. Right, yep. Troy O'Leary.
Yep, good lefty, good rake.
Goodness, and that team, it was a team that was struggling at the time. Pedro Martinez. I got to say this because when Pedro came over, it was a frenzy, man. It was like unbelievable how big Pedro was over there in Boston. He was at the top of his game, and when I ended up going to Northeastern University, which is a story on its own. Pedro went to watch me play. Yeah, that was crazy. Pedro heard that there was this Dominican kid that was getting looked at by scouts, and there was a possibility of him going in the draft. And Pedro would go to Northeastern University to Parsons Field in Brookline and go watch me play. And it was crazy because when he would go in there, the whole game would stop. It's like,
oh my God.
Forget the rain delay. It was a Pedro delay, bro. Like everybody stopped. The umpire goes, timeout. Hold on. What's going on here?
That's crazy. At that age, you're in college and basically the best pitcher. And from where he's from, your head must have exploded the first time you saw him.
Well, he's obviously there because Pedro's like the president of the DR. You hear a kid from the DR is playing over at Northeastern. So when was the first time you met him, Los?
Well, that's when he walked in. When he walks in, I'm like, there's no way. What is he doing here? I'm, and of course I'm like, I'm in awe, but I try to play it cool, like it's no problem. Like I'm trying to act like, hey, I'm not, awestruck or starstruck. I'm just gonna play it cool. But inside, man, my heart started just beating so fast and then when the game was over, he comes over, says hello to me, says, hey, I heard, encouraging words, words of advice. And what's funny is that if we fast forward to when I actually finally made it to the major leagues and faced him, this guy turned the total opposite, bro. He went to being like the greatest, nicest dude ever. Like when he went to watch me play. And when I went up to bat, I'm like, I'm like nodding and this, like, hey, what's up? It's me.
He's like, no, he's an assassin.
He acted like he didn't even know me. And on top of that, he acted like he wanted to bury me. Like the competitive, I'm like, hey, it's me. It's that kid from Northeastern, the Dominican kid, And he was like I'm going to just blow you away. And he did. He struck me out. He did.
What did he strike you out? Change up, fastball?
Oh, you have to go check the video because, I slammed the helmet down, like I was so upset that he struck me out and he's like giving me the attitude like he didn't even know me, bro. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wow, people change, man.
People change. That's that flip you got to switch. When you're in the box, you're like, I got to flip this switch right here. Like, I don't care. I just want to crush this ball. Or as Pedro said, I just want to punch you out. So it's funny how.
You know what's crazy? Shit, check this out. I actually hit a home run of Pedro Martinez down the line in Fenway Park.
What?
Right? Gone. And when I'm running first, the umpire goes, foul ball.
What?
I was like, you have to be kidding me with this. So I went to town. I started arguing with the umpire. I started, getting in his face, calling the manager over. Meanwhile, Pedro, who I thought I knew, changed into an absolute assassin yelling at me. Like, get back in the box. That's the foul ball. Blah, blah. Really getting after me. I'm like, oh my God. Like, what the heck? And at that time, we had no replay. Kid you not, guys. We called it, when we were working, I was working with Pedro and we called, we went back to that game, looked at the home run. And after all that effort, it was actually foul. At the very least, I thought I was going to have a victory. Like, you got away with one. We confirmed, looking at the replay, that it was actually foul.
Bro,
I regret that we looked it up.
Dude, Los, what's amazing, dude? I was going to bring this up later, but I'm going to bring it up now. It's funny you're talking about replay because September 19, 2008 against the Twins, I believe you had a call overturned that gave you a home run. It was the first call overturned in replay history of Major League Baseball. I mean, look how big replay is nowadays for Major League. You were the first call ever overturned. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And it went in my favor, which that was good, because the one I was telling you about went against me, even though it was really foul. But I thought it was fair, at least for my confidence. I thought it. Anyway, bottom line.
I love it, dude. Where was
bottom line? Yeah, I got the call over.
You got one back, dude. You got one back. You thought you got one against Pedro, but it turns out it was foul. And then you got one back in 2008. They gave it to you, the baseball god. So that's great, man. Dude, hey, Los, I want to rewind a little bit because I want to go back because your story is really, really interesting. You grew up in the Dominican, grew up in a household of 4 kids, and maybe we can get in that a little bit. But can you just talk about, for you came to the United States when you were 14, but I want to go back to the DR and what it was like growing up in Dominican and how different was that for you when you got to the States? Yeah,
I mean, it is. I almost feel like a little bit like Forrest Gump, because, because I feel like the trajectory has been so crazy, right? And the story is when I look back, it's kind of, super interesting and to be able to go through all the phases, I guess it gives me a lot to talk about, right? But listen, Case, I mean, I was over there in DR and I always loved baseball. I grew up next to the winter ball stadium over there, El Estadio Quisqueya. And we used to have these power outages and the only light that was like all over the place was the stadium.
Oh my God. Like, come on.
So I would be on the backyard and I could sense like this splendor and it came from the stadium. So I'm like, okay, that's where my love for the game started, right? I would, my father used to put those radios and you could hear the static and you hear the crowd and the announcer at the same time. So it's like,
wow.
It was crazy. So it's crazy when I'm driving or, wherever I hear static on a radio, kid you not, it brings me back to those days. Like I feel it, right? And that's where it all started. But it wasn't like an easy transition. Like I wasn't really that good of a player at the beginning, when I was a youngster, But the one thing I do remember is that my father used to celebrate even my foul balls. So I used to go over their case and strike out 3 times every Saturday. That's when we played. And I would hit a couple foul balls. And on the way home, I was sad, walking back home, but my dad would be like, "Oh, my son, that was an absolute missile you hit for a foul ball. That swing was," and he kept encouraging me like that. And to this day, I thank him for that, because it kept me in the game. It kept me motivated until finally I kind of got the hang of it and became really, really, really good. But you're right, man. That transition and going over to the States was ridiculous, because my parents get this letter that basically they want to interview them because they want to give them the opportunity to come to the States as legal residents and bring their family to the United States. In the meantime, I'm loving, the Dominican Republic with my friends. I'm like, what do you mean we're leaving? Like what? And for mom and dad, it must have been a crazy decision because they're both professionals. My father is an electromechanical engineer. My mother is a teacher and an accountant. They all have solid jobs. We live very well in Dominican Republic. We didn't have luxuries, but I could tell you I was extremely comfortable, very happy, lived in an awesome spot, nice house. And next thing you know, because we ended up moving to this nicer house. And man, I was really upset when we left. And when we got here and we ended up in the Northeast, that's when I really was upset.
Like snow? What's up with this cold weather? It's snow. What the hell?
Wait, listen, I read that your dad, you said to your dad, I read this, tell me if I'm right or wrong, but you said to your dad, we can't go up there. I can't play baseball up there. It's too cold. And your father goes, son, all of Major League Baseball is up there. And you're like, oh, okay, it's okay.
He didn't say that. He didn't tell me, because I was like, how am I supposed to play baseball? Why are we going in this freezing cold weather? And the answer that he came up with was like, the major leagues are in the United States. And I was like, oh, okay. Maybe I'm closer now, But I'm telling you, when I hit that cold weather, man, and it was snowing and we couldn't play baseball. And I'm like, how in the world does this make sense? And why are we living in this, we're living in my uncle's attic. Why are we living in this attic? Why really? What are we doing? How does this even make sense? Now to a child, it didn't make sense at the time. And I'm pretty sure dad and mom, they were also struggling. Like, did we make the right decision? This is nuts. We left.
So were all four of you guys in your uncle's attic with your parents there, or they came later?
No, we my parents were there with us, and and this is something I don't talk a lot about, but man, we were up there, and we had one mattress, and because the attic, it got really, really cold, we slept with our coats on, wow. And we would sleep on the mattress diagonal. So let's say not the long way, but the short way. That way we were comfortable, or as comfortable as we could be, and we spent there a good 2 to 3 months before we finally, my parents were able to get a job and finally rent an apartment somewhere else. So by no means did we ever think this doesn't make any sense. Why are we not in the Dominican Republic with our friends where we were happy? And here we are struggling. Come on. Wow. That's me. I'm 14 years old. Imagine my father and my mother, who they think they have uprooted their whole entire family and left everything they knew behind, social life, professional life, to go on an adventure for the promise of broader horizons. That to me, they are my heroes. Bottom line, my mom and dad are my heroes.
Wow. What about you? Did you guys know English pretty well? Like when you went to school, you said you were 14 years old, but you were a young 14, so you were coming right into high school. Did you know English fluently? Did everyone? What was that like for you?
In Dominican Republic, education has always been huge in my family. Always. Like I told you, my mother was a teacher. If you spoke out of line in my house. And my mom will be like, hey, what do we don't talk like that in this house. Finish your sentences, complete your words, don't chop them off. Make sure you put every single S at the end of every word. Wow. We care about education in this home. My mom was really strict with that. And one of the things that we did was we took English classes when we were in Dominican Republic. So when we got to the States, No, I did not know how to speak fluent English, but I had studied so that when I got here and now I am submerged into the culture, into the language, I was able to pick it up quickly. And, they had English as a second language classes, but I'm talking about within months of being here, I'm like, you know what? I'm going all English. And I was like taking all English classes, even though that was probably too premature because it was extremely hard for me to get it. I think it accelerated my learning process, So in a matter of months, I felt comfortable with English. And I could say today that, like, what are you thinking? People say, what are you dreaming? And it's like, I don't know. I don't dream in any language in particular. I feel comfortable in both. Like it just is, and but it started back then with my mother's and my father's insistence in, hey, we need to be educated. We need to study. We need to study English. We need to make sure we get our good grades. And look, it held me, man. I'm telling you, I learned English very quickly.
Dude, you didn't just learn English. Carlos, you have one of the best vocabularies of anybody I know. I think I said that to you one year when we were working together. I'm like, your comprehension of the English language is better than, I would say, 90% of this country that was born here and their entire families have lived here, for sure.
I appreciate you saying that, Chinch.
You said like 4 words just now that I didn't even know.
And Chinch went to Columbia.
Yeah.
I'm an avid reader. I read a lot, and I know that's helped me quite a bit. And one of the
what good books are you reading right now, Los?
Oh goodness.
Or what's one of the best books you've read that's really helped you?
Looking at one of my favorite books ever, just because of how it just helped me in many different ways, is Ogmandino, and it's called The Greatest Salesman in the World. That's one of I always feel like if I love someone, right, and that could be a gift, to someone I care about, like The Greatest Salesman in the World would be something I want my sons and my daughter to read, because it was so instrumental to me, and so look it up because I think you'll like it. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Love that book. And as you can see, you can see the trend of what I'm talking about. It's about going after your dreams, dreaming, and everything is possible, and creating good habits and discipline, and like that Greatest Salesman in the World talks about the importance of creating habits, habits that will propel you forward. So love that book. Pick it up. But yeah, man, I read a wide variety of stuff.
Yeah,
I appreciate you saying that, Chinch, because when I graduated college, I knew that I wasn't going to be in a classroom. So I told myself, you know what you're going to do? Promise yourself that you're going to read as many books as you possibly can. Even though you don't have to, do it for just your pure enjoyment. And I created that habit, and now I can't live without reading a book. Like I'm always, whether it's a novel or fiction or anywhere from theology to business, I'm reading stuff. So it's fun for me. I mean, and it certainly helps the language, right? Like it does.
Los, I love the saying, you create your habits and your habits create you. It's funny you said, you started creating that habit to read books so long ago, and here you are, years later, 30 years later, and you're still reading books the way you did, early on. One of the things, Los, that a word that really comes to my mind, and I think it really epitomizes a Major League Baseball player, but it also, when I think of this word, it brings me back to you as a 14-year-old kid and the Peña family that came over from DR, that came to Haverhill, Massachusetts, that were living in the attic of their uncle, is grit. Can you tell me, man, when you hear the word grit, what does that mean to you?
Oof. It's about being resilient, about never giving up, about maybe not allowing outside influences to deter you from where you're going, you're north, right? Immediately think of my mom and dad, that they put aside their dreams, right? Their professional dreams, aspirations to come. And then when they to come to the United States, and then when they get here, think about this. They have to do things that are not what they want to do. This is not what they went to school for. This is not what they dreamt of doing. And no work. There's absolutely no work that we shouldn't say that it's that it's not worthy. I think if we're healthy, and it doesn't matter what you do, when you do it with all your heart, then it's dignified word. Period. So not to shed anything negative into these professions, but here you are. You're an engineer, and you get to the States, and now my father's working at a water plant. Now my father is working as a janitor. Now, nothing wrong with being a janitor. It's just that my dad was, the boss of his company in Dominican Republic, and now he has to come here. And there were many times where the water plant, something will happen in the water plant, and my dad's boss would go get him to help him fix the plant, because my dad was probably even more qualified than the boss. So I think that when you say grit, how about that? How about like being able to, your pride is shattered, but you still keep on going, keep on grinding, because you have a goal, which is make sure your family and your kids are well, and that now we are, where we were at because of what mom and dad did. My mom was working as in a nursing home, as a housekeeping, fixing the bedrooms and helping the older folks there that needed help. And I'm thinking to myself, this is not what my mom signed up for. Now, she did that with all the love in the world, taking care of the elderly and making up their beds and cleaning their rooms and all that stuff. But that's not what she signed up for. She went to school to be a teacher and an accountant, and she had a career back home. So you're talking about grit?
Wow.
That's grit. That's like swallowing your pride and saying, okay, I have one goal. I need to take care of my family, and I'm going to set my pride aside. I'm going to check it at the door, and then I'm going to do what we came to do, which is make sure that we give our kids the opportunities that, all the opportunities in the world, which they did. They did. So that's grit to me.
Wow.
Whenever you're like, complaining, I'm like, come on, man, stop the complaining. Immediately, like,
right.
Good. You can't complain. You can't complain.
Wow, dude. I literally chills all over my body with that, talking about your parents. And I mean, it's just, you're right, man.
Same here.
It's amazing.
I'm very grateful. Yeah, I'm very grateful.
Yeah. And you talk about, I think they always say complaining, kills gratitude. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of gratitude. I can hear the gratitude in your voice of, hey, man, we had a lot to complain about, but my parents were gritty. We figured it out. We kept moving forward. We did what we had to do, and here you are years later. So what a cool story, dude. That's what an answer. That's unbelievable. But for you personally, going back to Haverhill, Massachusetts, you come there, and obviously you're playing baseball, and you get a scholarship to Wright State, right?
Yeah,
and I was reading, and you said, which is out near Cincinnati, which my old stomping grounds. Like, oh man, Carlos went to Wright State. You got to be kidding me. So, when you end up going to Wright State, it doesn't go that well. You head home. What happened there? Before you end up going to Northeastern.
Well, first of all, coming out of high school, remember we didn't have the technology that we have now. So,
right.
In order for me to even search for schools, I would have to go to the library, get that big book that had all the coaches. And I wanted to go D1. So I'm like, I'm going to get all these schools. And my father sat next to me and said, you know what we're going to do? Let's come up with a round number, 100. We're going to write to 100 universities. And they all got to be D1, because I wanted to go D1. And we wrote 100 letters. We put some newspaper clippings. I am interested in going to Wright State University. I'm interested in going in University of Florida. I'm interested in going to Arizona State University. All of them. I'm interested in going in Columbia University. Yes, that's right, Tim. That's right. I rejected. Rejected by Columbia. I have a story about that later, though.
Yes.
Yes. Hold the Chinch, right?
Yes.
And I got 3 letters back, guys. Out of 100, I went 3 for 100. Tennessee Tech, Troy State University in Alabama. That one actually was a Division II school. Now it's D1, I believe. And Wright State University. And Wright State was the one that kind of gave me the best package of engineering, because I went to school for engineering, and D1 baseball. And I was like, okay, that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to go to Wright State University. So that's how I end up in Wright State University. Then fast forward later, I wasn't playing, and I had my plans to play professional baseball. And I wasn't getting an opportunity over there. And I went up to Ron Nischwitz, and that was the head coach there. And I said, Coach, if you're not, if I'm not the guy for you here, I want my release. I got to go. I have no time to waste, And to make a long story short, I do get the release and I go back home. But now I'm without a school in Boston.
That's right.
Until finally, I was able to, apply to Northeastern University, got in, walked on to the team, and made the team. So that's how I ended up in Northeastern. I talked to the coach. He knew I was coming, but he's like, hey, man, just walk on and let's see what you got, because your numbers are not really that good. I'm like, all right, here we go. So it almost felt like I was starting from scratch. But wow, I landed in a great spot. What a place to go to school at, man. Boston, Massachusetts. What a city. And then Northeastern University, a D1 school, now in the America East Conference. That was awesome, man. I really took off there. I really did.
So how did you take off, though? Like, you come to Northeastern, you can't even play at Wright State. You come to Northeastern, you tell your coach, hey, I'm really good. They're like, well, your numbers don't look like they're good. Like, so did you get a chance to start right away? Did you have to work your way in? What was the work that you had to put in to become the player that you became?
One of the things, we talked about that word grit. I always thought to myself, you know what? If you want to be better than the rest, then you have to do what others are not willing to do. Like, especially if you're not the most talented, right? Like I never felt like I could just roll out of bed and do anything. Like, I didn't feel like I was the most talented. So I always thought to myself, okay, then you're going to have to do what no one else is willing to do. So at Northeastern University, I used to set the alarm at 5 a.m. And I used to wake up at 5, go to the gym, crush a workout, then go to class. And my thought process was, none of these fools are doing this. Like, there's no way, the pitcher I'm going to face tomorrow is doing what I'm doing. That guy is out, having fun or whatever, drinking, I don't know, in a party somewhere. I hope he is. I really hope he is. Tomorrow, and when I see him, I'm going to get into the box and I'm going to say, okay, I may not be the most talented player, but no one deserves it more than me. That was my mentality. Like, no one deserves it more than me. So I would try to make sure I check that box, right? And guess what, Case? Like, I kept on doing that. And this is something I was doing before, in high school. I mean, in high school, I used to go to the Y at 4:30. Who does that in high school? Are you crazy? Who's going to wake up at 4:30 to go work out before you go to class? That's kind of like insane, But it made me feel, and obviously you get better because you're working at it. But confidence-wise, I was like, wow, no one deserves to succeed more than I do. So I felt like I had an advantage, over all my competition. So
Los. It's funny you say that, because I always tell people too. I tell my sons that are playing college baseball, I said, listen, you don't just go to the cages to hit. You don't just go to the weight room to work out. When you go to the weight room to work out and you go to the cages to hit, you're building the confidence muscle. No one can help you with that. You're building inner trust of yourself. So when you get in the batter's box, you go, let's get it on. Because I know I was up at 4:30. I know I was up at 5 o'clock, and you weren't. And you're not as good as me. And it's just like almost like a mental game you play with yourself. Would you say that that's kind of like what you were doing, like playing the mental game with yourself? Like, hey, I'm building inner trust with myself. So when I go to battle, or when I got that one-on-one competition, I'm ready.
That's absolutely it. And that's something that you can control. I think one of the greatest mind games, like when I talk to younger kids, I'm like, hey, think about yourself, think about your favorite movies, right? Personally, my favorite movie is Gladiator, and think about that hero in your story. Why is this your favorite movie? Now think about this. Think about you. Like, how do you want your movie to be like? Why are you not the hero of your own movie? I play these games with the younger kids because I tell them, give me a good story. Give me a good story. Usually a good story goes like, here's this character who's down and out, and then he fights to get to the top. He's the underdog, and then he defeats the giant, but he sacrificed and worked so hard. That's kind of Gladiator. You know what I mean?
Right.
Okay. And I tell young kids, think about yourself as a character in the movie, and hey, be a hero, be your own hero. So what would your hero do? Oh no, my hero will wake up and work hard. And I would have that mentality, Case. And I'm telling you, it works because that's the one thing you can control, effort, right? Effort, I can control effort for sure. So I make sure I check that box. And whenever I went into the batter's box, I was like, this fool on the mound I don't care who he is. He certainly hasn't worked as hard as I have. So already I deserve it more than him. That thought, I deserve it more than him because I've worked harder than him. The confidence was through the roof. And then on top of that, Case, that when you work, you get better.
Yeah.
You start feeling oh my God, I'm sharp, man. I'm sharp. So it goes in correlation with I'm more prepared. Then you feel that you're actually really good. It's a perfect combination,
Yeah.
So that was one of my keys, to achieve maybe what otherwise I wouldn't be able to.
It's like studying for a test. I tell my kids, listen, you got that math test, if you don't study, you go into that math test with zero confidence, and then you have to blame other people, or the teacher wasn't good enough, all stuff. But if you actually study for that math test, you go in there with some confidence, say, you know what, I've put in the time and I'm ready to go. It's amazing you talk about effort, Los, because there's a book by Angela Duckworth called Grit. It's so funny we're talking about this. It just popped into my head, Grit. And she says in the equation for grit and achievement is talent times effort equals skill. Right? So now you have the skill. Skill times effort equals achievement, right? So there's your grit. So effort factors twice in the equation. So talent times effort equals skill. Okay, great. I got the skill. That's great. There's a lot of people that have the skill. Skill times effort equals achievement. And that's what you're saying, dude. Hey, how many people have developed the skill, but now wake up at 4:30, 5 o'clock to do the things they need to do to get to really where they want to get to? I just think, that popped into my head when you said effort.
Isn't it almost like how much are you able to endure? That's what I almost kept on telling myself, you can endure more pain than anybody. You can endure more struggle than anybody. You can endure more difficulty than anybody. So it's almost like I'm outlasting my competition. It's like I'm outgritting my competition. So, but what you just explained, while you're doing that, you're gaining skill as well. Right. So it's like, oh man, now you got skill built. Then you add the effort on top of that skill, and now you're achieving. That is the formula. I don't know any other shortcuts, Yeah, we can definitely work smarter, but there's something that you cannot substitute, and that is actually putting in the effort, man. Yeah. That is huge. Yeah.
Dude, I'm going to listen, bro. I see you even nowadays in your life. Dude, our baseball careers are over. But when I go to work out at MLB Network, you're in there and I'm like, man, this guy's more jacked than freaking anyone in the big leagues right now. It's unbelievable. And what you do. So, dude, can you tell us what does Carlos Peña's day look like? What does your mornings look like? As far as you still working out, staying healthy, what you eat, all that stuff. What's important for your process now in your life?
Yeah. Now I'm looking for the next thing to crush. Right. So right. I don't mail anything in. Case. I don't mail anything. I don't mail being a dad, whatever. No. Being a husband, no, I want to be really good at that. I want to be the best I can be at that. So at the network, like I really want to be good as an analyst. Like I know I got playing experience, but I can't just rely on that. Like, so I study, I try to figure out, why did I fail? Why did I succeed? Why would I have done different, which makes me a better analyst. So I start studying, usually, guys will be like, forget sabermetrics. No, I want to know everything about sabermetrics so that I can see what's applicable and what is not, right? So my day, physically, you talk about exercise, same thing. It's like, I don't want to mail that in. Are you kidding me? Like, I want to make sure that number one, that I stay healthy for my kids, stay young, and so I can hang with them. Man, they're running plays on me right now, Case. These two boys, they're scoring touchdowns left and right. I need to be able to guard them. You know what I mean?
You got to keep the energy up, bro. You got to keep the energy high.
I got to keep the energy up. So just that alone motivates me. But at the end of the day, it's also that mentality, like you said. Like I want to be in the best shape. Like I want to, I'm 44 right now. I'm thinking 50 years old. So I think long term. I'm thinking at 50, I want to be the nastiest top dog 50th, 50-year-old in the business. You know what I mean?
You're heading there, bro. You were heading there.
Yeah. So why? Just because, like that's just part of who I am and kind of like the mentality that I built. So nothing, man. Wake up every single day. I have a time of prayer, that immediately sets me in the right path right away. Just sets me going north in the right direction. And then, you get into just this today when I was on the plane, I got a list of things that I want to accomplish in the day. So you have different systems. And even that is, I'm trying to improve on. Like, okay, I need to be more efficient here, and there. And you're like, why? You're retired. I'm like, am I really retired? I don't think I'll ever retire.
Right.
Like, I'm gonna be 90 years old trying to make my world better, my sphere of influence better. I want to contribute. So I don't think retirement is really not something that I think of. Like, as long as I have breath in me, I want to be able to influence my surroundings and make it better, bring light to some people, whatever it is. So workouts is one of those things that has always got to be in the middle of preferably early, because I think it sets me going for the rest of the day.
Well, they say when you work out, exercise gives you 12 hours of energy. So like if you work out, I know for me, like I like to Peloton every day. When I don't Peloton, which I try not to do that, but a direct reflect on the energy of my day. It's phenomenal. So that's why working out in the morning, you get that workout in the morning, you got 12 hours of your day where you're getting sustained energy, as opposed to, hey, I'm going to, try and work out at 6, 7 o'clock at night, and then I'm going to go to bed. So, it makes total sense about, getting that workout in. Bam, you got sustained energy, and then you can be the father you want to be, the analyst you want to be. That's why when you're talking, I'm like, it makes a ton of sense, dude. Yeah. This guy purposely goes about his day. He deliberately plans it out. He deliberately works hard. He deliberately is good at his relationships and his work. And it shows, man. It's just very, very impressive. Very impressive.
Being deliberate in everything we do, I think it's one of the most important things. Like, you can even talk about friendships. Like, come on, man. Like, if you let things just slide, there are friends that you probably won't even say hello to, because they're not in front of you. So if you care about friendship, it's like, hey, man, I was thinking about you. You send a message. How are you, man? Thinking about you. Or you making an effort. Like, it's a conscious effort. It's you being intentional about things. So being intentional to me, it's absolutely huge. My mom and dad, you know how easy it is to be like, oh, I'm busy. It's like, no, wait a second. Grab your phone. Mom, thinking of you, love you, bless you. I'm asking for your blessing. And my mom sent me a text, says, God bless you, son. Okay. But she already heard from me. Now, if I'm not intentional about that, very easily, I'll forget because I'm busy. So being intentional, it's so key, right? Because if we think it's going to happen just because, many things don't. So we have to be intentional about everything we do. So, and again, this is something that I'm constantly trying to improve on, and there are many things that I'm like, oh man, I missed out on here, and I'll write them down. And, I love taking notes, by the way. It's hilarious. Like, you don't understand. Like, people, I'm always, I got a pencil and paper all the time. And for some reason, pencil, not even pen, pencil. I
so you can erase. You can erase the mistakes.
Anyway, so I'm always taking notes, I don't know, something I learned early on, and I still carry that habit with me.
Well, Carlos, this is where the Columbia story comes in. You said you didn't get into Columbia. You are now so successful in what you do, and you have like a little final story to that chapter. And what you're about to do to add on to what you already do is absolutely bananas. And congratulations for it, by the way. Tell Case what we're talking about here.
So, Case, I told you earlier, obviously, like Ivy League schools, they're so alluring and amazing to even think about. And Chinch, I've always had so much respect for you because I understand that being able to go to a school like Columbia, there's a certain prestige that comes with that, and hard work and dedication to get there. So, yeah, it was my dream to go to the best academic school I could possibly go to. And I went to really good schools, but I couldn't get into Columbia. I couldn't get into Harvard, and I don't even think the application, I didn't per se send an application there. What I'm talking about is that first initial letter. I needed the baseball to also be part of it because I honestly couldn't pay for those schools. So I needed that scholarship part. So that had to do with it. But I just recently applied, Case, to Columbia and to Duke University for my master's degree. And I'll be lying to you if I told you that it didn't have to do with that, like, desire in me to say, wait a second, I can get into these Ivy League schools. I got it. I can do this. And I went through the entire process of writing essays, the application, the letter of intent, and the excitement of being a student applying to such a prestigious, school, and understanding that the odds are not that good. They're difficult. I got into Columbia. And now I'll tell you this. Wow. By the way, I didn't want to open that letter. I told my wife, Pam, I'm like, babe, come here, please. What's going on? Open this, please. And I stood like 5 meters away from her, and I'm like doing jumping jacks or something. I'm like trying to distract myself. And she opened it up, and she goes, "Oh, you got in." You know what I mean? And I'm like, "What? Oh shit! What?" I got so excited. I was like, "You gotta be kidding me, dude!" I was so pumped because it was a dream of mine when I was, 18 years old, 17 years old. And now at 44, just turned 44, I was able to say, I got into Columbia, and I applied for the master's in knowledge and information strategy master's degree from Columbia University. I got in. In Duke University, I applied for the quantitative management business analytics. I got in. Wow. I don't even care what anybody else thinks. I'm thinking to myself, I did it. I went for it and I got in, and here I am, poised to continue growing, man. I as long as I'm able to learn and grow, I want to go for it. I guess I would like to think that I'm going to be a lifetime learner, a lifetime student. That's fine with me.
Congrats, Los. That's an unbelievable story, dude. That's an unbelievable story. And I think our brains are looking for that new learning. And that, I think for you, when you get those degrees at Columbia, can you come back on our show and teach Chinch and I a few things if you could? Chinch stopped, at the bachelor's degree. So you're going for the master's. This is freaking next. That's another level. That's another level, bro. So Los, we're going to go from your master's, you're heading to your master's degree at Columbia. I want to go back to your big league because you got a master's degree in the big leagues too, which not many guys do. I want to fast forward a little bit. You get drafted by the Rangers. You come up, you get traded to the A's. You come up a little bit with the Tigers, Boston. I think your career really took off in Tampa, but before Tampa, when you got into through the minor leagues and into professional and into the big leagues, who were the guys that kind of influenced your journey to really help you say, okay, I'm starting to understand what it takes to be a big leaguer and succeed at this level?
When I was over there in Detroit, I had guys like Bobby Higginson, and even going back before the Detroit Tigers, when I was in Oakland, Terrence Long, Eric Chavez, David Justice. Those guys were in that ball club. Scott Hatterberg was in the Oakland ball club, but then I went over to Detroit, and it was Bobby Higginson, as I mentioned. Damian Easley was one of those guys. I was like, man, this guy's a pro. Like watching Damian Easley go about his business, just a good, solid, professional ball player. I learned a lot from him, and it kind of set me in motion. Remember that Alou, Moses Alou, that
Felipe
Alou was the bench coach when
really?
I arrived in Detroit. And man, like this man was so good. I mean, he really helped me out. So I almost, I felt like I established myself in the big leagues when I was in Detroit. Alan Trammell comes over also as a manager, helped me out.
Was Kurt Gibson there too as a coach during that time?
Yeah, he got there. Kurt got there, and Kirk's got so much energy. What an intense guy! My goodness. And I remember Kirk used to get on me. We used to kind of butt heads when he was there. But another guy that was like talk about grit. This man was a fighter, man. He was intense coaching. That was crazy. Like he wanted coaching. He was like hardcore intense. So I could only imagine what he was as a player. We know that he was very good, but I could see it in his demeanor. So those guys, they helped me, but maybe I wasn't as established as I thought. I hit a bump there on the road and ended up getting released by the Tigers in 2006 when Gene Leland came over, and that kind of sent me spinning for a little bit. I didn't know what was in store for me. Went to the minor leagues with the Yankees, asked for my release because I was like, forget it. Like, you guys have no plans for me, even though I'm doing well. I didn't see that there was future there. End up signing with the Red Sox, which was amazing because for the first time now I'm wearing the Red Sox uniform.
Right. Dreams come true.
Oh my, think about that.
Right.
Just think about that for a second. I used to sneak into Fenway Park with my brown and gold jacket, right? Trying to get into the highlights, and here I'm wearing a Red Sox uniform, walking it off, hitting a walk-off home run at Fenway Park. Just went to school, Northeastern University, down, a little bit north up there in Haverhill, Mass. I went to high school. Are you serious? And I'm wearing a uniform with the Red Sox. That to me was insane, right?
What was that walk-off like, Los, when you walked it off? Tell me about that.
I came in late in the game and for defense, and the game ended up, the White Sox ended up tying the game. And then here I come up to bat in the bottom of the 10th, and I got a sinker down and in, and I just went blagada down the line, bro. When I saw that ball leaving the yard, I was like, oh my! I was running the bases, and I remember talking about being intentional, right? I remember about, if you thought I was slow, Case, like in the box, this was a slow trot, bro. Like I really I slowed down by when I was going around shortstop, that area, I slowed down. And I remember looking at the stands, and I told myself, soak this in. Make sure you're present here. Like, don't get, enjoy it. Don't let it just be a blur. And I remember that from that moment on, from that shortstop position, every step I was going, thank you, thank you, thank you. I was saying thank you every step I took, right? And then when I got to home plate, all those steps as I jogged in, I was saying thank you, thank you, thank you, because it was nothing short of miraculous that I was doing what I was doing, Because it's one thing, man, I got to tell you, God has been always present in my life, and always opening doors for me to walk through. And all he, the way I look at it, it's like, all I need from you, like I almost imagine him giving me a pep talk. All I need for you is show up. Give me that effort. Give me that effort and doors will open. Just keep coming, you know? And I had that in my mentality, you know, when as the process went on through my whole entire life. And that's why I'm so grateful, because I feel like I'm an overachiever, not necessarily, the most talented player in the world. No, man, like a lot of work, a lot of effort, and a lot of opportunities that opened up, you know, at the right moment. Boom, there's an opportunity. I seize it. An opportunity, I seize it. But where did the opportunity come from? You know, I kind of like outlasted people, and then here's the chance, and I walked through that door.
Yeah.
Who opened the door? So I never hesitate to say that God's hand has been, you know, present throughout my entire life, certainly my career.
Yeah. What was so low? I love that, because I always think about, I remember my dad saying to me one day, he's like, you know, what's your purpose? Like, do you want to play in the big leagues for fame and fortune? Or do you want to play in the big leagues because God's given you these gifts, and that's a chance to maybe impact people, impact kids, impact the people that come to the games, you know, all that stuff. What was your purpose for wanting to play in the big leagues?
You know, that's a great point you bring forth, because, you know, especially, you know, when you talk about your father, you know, mom and dad always talked about the fact that we were supposed to be image bearers, you know, that's the best way to translate, you know, what they were saying. Just kind of like, hey man, if you can reflect God's image onto the world, then that's what we're here for, right? So what does that mean? Like, okay, if you walk into a room, you know, make sure that when you leave it, it's better than you found it, right? Everything you do, like whatever is entrusted to you, can you take care of it? Can you make it grow? Can you make it better? You know, can you guard it? You know, and that goes with everything. Opportunities, certainly, right? Certainly opportunities. There's an opportunity that comes and lands in your lap. Make sure you're a good steward of that opportunity. It's a gift, right? So think about that mentality. That's, you know, can you shed God's light out onto the world with everything you do? Everything. Man, that kind of made me sit back and say, and kind of analyze myself, possibly many times too harshly, to be quite honest. Because I'm my own worst critic. Right?
Yeah. Like, hey, welcome to the club. Welcome to the club.
I think, you know, you and I, that's one of the things that I've always noticed about you. I think we resonate in so many different levels, Case, and that's why my admiration for you from the first time I met you. That's probably why we hit it off. Like we get incredibly, you know, we get along incredibly well. It's because I think we're cut from the same cloth, man. Like that's one of those things that it's good, it's bad, because I think sometimes we do it to a fault. But it's good because we're always kind of checking ourselves. We're always looking in the mirror like, hey, man, you kind of fell short there, you know, and we've had deep conversations about that before, Case. Yeah. It's like, you know, and it's one of those things like, Case, you'll be fine, man. Or you tell me, Los, let's keep on fighting. You're good. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, it's one of those things that I learned early on. And okay, are you doing everything you can to make the space that you're in better than before? Did you lift someone up? Did you make the team better? You know, were you able to put your team or your teammates before your own interests, which you know is tough sometimes when you're struggling and you're trying to fight for your career. And Casey hits a home run, Chinch, but I'm 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts. You know, I would be that guy that on purpose, even though my heart was broken because I had 3 strikeouts under my belt, I would be on the first step waiting for Case to give him a high five, you know, because I wanted him to know it's like, you know what, it might have been a tough day for me, but I'm going to celebrate with you. So that's the mentality right there. So that's kind of the way I grew up, Case, and when my mom and dad taught me from a very young age.
I love that, Los. Hey, man, the bottom line is it came across when you were a player and it comes across now as a friend. I mean, it's amazing. I remember that first conversation, one of the first conversations we had we were talking about, we were in the outfield, we were meeting before the game, and you came up. I'm like, man, this guy, I followed your career too. And I, started seeing you kind of start to take off. And I don't know if you remember this, but we were talking about Harvey Dorfman.
Yeah,
who was our guy. He was the mental game of baseball, the mental keys to hitting. Chinch and I, Al Layer talks a lot about him. We've had a lot of guys on here that obviously what Harvey meant to all of us, the impact that he had. Can you talk about that a little bit? What Harvey meant to you, and how did he help you maybe become a better player in the big leagues?
Wow. Amazing. I mean, obviously, Harvey Dorfman does not need an introduction. I'm pretty sure that you talked about him in the podcast at length. But I would say a pioneer, a trailblazer when it comes to
total trailblazer
psychologists, right?
Yep.
I mean, certainly in baseball, he was like the one, and the one who began it all. I was fortunate enough, and I was represented by Scott Boras. Scott had hired Harvey to be part of his team. And that's how
So smart. I mean, Harvey Dorfman, the best of the best. Okay.
I used to read, the mental game of baseball. I still have it. It's in my library.
Here you go.
Boom. Unbelievable.
And this one, mental keys to hitting.
Oof, the mental keys to hitting.
So good.
Love it. And the mental keys to hitting came after the mental game of baseball. A little bit more succinct, right to the point, specifically about hitting. Amazing. So I'm familiar with Harvey Dorfman, and here I am talking to him on the phone, Case. I mean, I know you have many of those nights where you're like, okay, kid, all right. How did it go? Kid? Here comes Harvey's question. So how did it go, kid? I'm like, I don't know, Harvey, whatever. I went 0 for 4. Like, that's not what I asked you. He immediately went to the process.
How's your process? Yeah. How's your process?
Remember that? It was annoying. I'm like, can't you just hear me out, bro? Like, I've hit, I'm 0 for 4 again. And I hit 3-line drives right at somebody. I'm in a slump. He goes, that's not a slump. If you're hitting the ball hard, it's not a slump. It's an unfortunate period. I'm like, come on, Harvey. Like, stop being so annoying, please. One time. Can you just join me in my pool of self-pity? Like, just swim with me for a little bit.
He wouldn't do it. He would not allow it.
Remember that?
Dude, I remember one time, Los, this is so great. I remember one time I'm raking, June 2004. I'm dominating. I go on a stretch, 0 for 12, right? But I hit the ball hard 11 times, but I'm a mess, dude. It's like my 7th year in the big leagues, 8th, and I'm still a mess. I call Harvey after the game. He's like, hey, what's up, Case? What's going on? Are you being good to yourself? Remember, you always be like, you're being good to yourself. Be good to yourself. He'd always end his calls with, be good to yourself. I'm like, man, this guy's a genius. But I remember, I'm like, well, Harvey, man, I'm kind of grinding, 0 for my last 12. He's like, well, Tell me your at-bats, because he was always a process over results, focus on the task at hand, process, not results, and sometimes we when we start thinking about results, we get in that tailspin. And dude, same thing, Los. He's like, Harvey says to me, he goes, well, take me through your at-bats. I was like, first at bat, line out to second bat, line out to center. So I go through my at-bats. Bro, you'll love this because Harvey. I just hear a pause on the other line. Like, I was like, hello, Harvey, are you still there? He's like, why are you calling me? He's like, why are you calling me? It sounds like your process is right on. Your job as a big league player is to hit the ball hard every time up. You've done it 11 out of 12 times. Eventually you're going to get hits if you do that. I'll talk to you tomorrow. It was just like, I was like, I never should have called because I knew that was going to be the answer. But right, Los, I mean, process over results. Can you do it? Pitch after pitch after pitch after pitch. And you talk about life now. Can you do your life moment by moment by moment by moment? I love it.
Isn't that amazing that you and I remember? I mean, we could have probably said that at the same time and say, hey, what did he say to you when he got off the phone? And it was be good to yourself. And we were just talking about that a couple minutes ago. How sometimes we're not, even now after the game, I'm my harshest critic. And he always used to say, be good to yourself, because it's easy when you get to uber competitive and you are not winning, even though the process is perfect. If you're not winning, it's hard for you to kind of accept that,
Right.
And that's when I get I can be tough on myself if I'm not getting the results I want. So talking to Harvey, I know what you're saying because he would do the same thing to me. He would say, how many good at-bats do you have today? Meaning, did you see the ball well?
Right.
Okay. Did you get the pitch you wanted? Right. And, after that, if those two are checks, the swing probably was going to be pretty legit, pretty healthy because you saw it and you got the pitch you wanted, which means you were ready for it. Good, healthy swing. Okay, no hits, but did you give me those? Then that's a check on your book. That in your mind, you should be 3 for 4, not 0 for 4. As annoying as it was, we know that's the right thing to do. Even if you don't get rewarded for it, even if you don't get a pat on the back, that's all you can do. Control the controllable. Anything else that you cannot control, you have to let it go. Another lesson, perspective. How about that, Case?
No,
he used to do that to me. He goes, Carlos, really? Like this is that life or death for you? Like, no. And he used to bring me back to earth. Like, do not push so much weight on a result. It's not the end of the world. And he would bring me back to a healthy perspective, which then allowed me to come back the next day fresh. Right. It was amazing. And
I said it the other day on MLB Network. Mookie Betts, is as hot as he's been. He looks like the MVP guy in Boston. So I was looking up some articles because I was going to go on air, and I was wondering, should I look at his swing? Should I break down this and that? Well, I find an article, Los, and you'll love this. They asked him, what has it been? He goes, man, you know what? I started reading audiobooks and I started, looking at some stuff about perspective. He's like, and my perspective changed, and I realized this isn't life or death. I still got to go out there and have fun. And if I do that, my talents will come out. And I was saying on air, and I always say this to people, like, listen, your perspective muscle of who you are as a person needs to be worked every day. Like it's like having a strong pectoral muscles. If I want those, I got to do push-ups. I got to actually lift weights, right? Well, if I want to have a proper perspective muscle, I actually have to think about things I'm grateful for. I actually have to, wake up and kiss my wife or my partner or whoever. I got to tell my kids I love them. I got to understand that, like, the perspective of, what I'm doing is, there's such a greater vision out there in life. So I love that you talk about perspective. Wow. And Harvey was so big on that too. Like, hey man, this isn't life or death. Put the work in, make sure your process is right every day, and make sure you go out there and have good at bat after good at bat. Don't waste a pitch. And he always used to say, at the end of your season, your numbers will be what they're supposed to be, whether it's a great year, an all-star year, whether it's a mediocre year, or maybe that year you were hitting balls right at people. You can't control that. But like you said, Los, control the controllables, and keep your perspective muscle working every day.
Healthy. A bad perspective is like almost like shackles, like chains that pretty much choke your talent. So when you're able to have a healthy perspective, it literally feels like, because we've all experienced it when you actually make that switch, and Mookie Betts is alluding to that. Man, it's like now your talent is able to express itself, where before it was slaved. It was like shackled and in chains. Next thing you know, now you're free, and things start happening for you. But it was like a monumental shift, by the way, perspective for me, because I would usually make it life or death, and then Harvey, you know it, I want it so bad, and then Harvey would bring me back to like, this is the healthy perspective, and it would be freeing. I will come back the next day fresh. That's why we called, Case. Even though we knew we were going to hear it, we needed him to tell us and kind of like yell at us a little bit.
But both of you guys, can I ask you guys a question? Because I try to, especially the people Sean's have on and what you guys are talking about, I try to live my life this way too. But my biggest problem is in the moment of anger. When I'm in that moment where I'm so pissed and I'm like, no, this life isn't fair, and I know it's not fair, but I'm still pissed off. And all of the things that I try to, when I wake up in the morning saying, like, I'm going to be positive, all this and that, when I am in that moment, I struggle with trying to get out of it. I feel like I'm overwhelmed with, F that. Everything you've been listening to right now, it is bullshit. Things aren't right. Do you guys have, like, triggers? Like, are there things that you go, wait, hold on, I'm in that, How do I get myself out of this? Both of you guys, because you both practices.
There's an unbelievable book, Chinch, an unbelievable book, and I don't know if Lowe's has read it, but if you haven't, Lowe's, you got to go get it right after we talk here. It's called The Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It's an unbelievable book. This guy was a prisoner in Auschwitz, 5 years in a concentration camp, and they took everything from him. They stripped him of all his freedoms. He was a psychiatrist in Poland. They stripped him of that. They stripped him of his identity. They stripped him of everything. Every day he would have to go out, and they would just, they had to work all the time in the morning, noon, from morning till, night, and watching people die around him. His wife, his parents, his kids were all taken from him. And he said the true freedom. So I always think about, this is one thing that helps me talk about perspective muscle. Yeah. I use this guy, Viktor Frankl, in my perspective muscle. He said, and then he survived it, and he came out. He became a psychiatrist, and started a thought, like a psychiatry practice called logotherapy, right? So he always says, the only thing where true freedom lies in the gap between stimulus and response. Wow. That gap between stimulus and response is where our true freedom lies. Because he says there was days where he was in living hell for 5 years. They've stripped him of everything, but he would look out at the mountains and go, look how beautiful those mountains are with the snow on top. Look at that tree right there, how beautiful that is. Who can I help today? In this concentration camp? So he's like, although you can punch me in the face, although you can tell me I'm nothing, although you can tell me that you can take everything away from me, it doesn't matter. Only thing that matters is how I respond, and my mind responds. So I always think about that. The true freedom in our life as human beings relies between that gap of stimulus, what happens to you, and how you respond. And Viktor Frankl is the guy I think of. I don't know about you, Los. Have you ever read that book, Man's Search for Meaning?
I've heard about it. I have not read it, but I will get it. Thank you for that recommendation. That's another thing that I enjoy a lot. It's like, we talk about read the books your father read, right? Well, read the book, that to me is important. Like what's important to Case? Like, what do you find valuable? Well, I'm going to make sure I get this book, by the way. And I love that, like the gap between stimulus and response, because there is a gap there.
Yes.
And sometimes it's when you are in control, that gap, it's wider, right? It's wider, it's bigger. And I've been there where I can almost be stoic about a stimulus, and I don't immediately react to it. I'm thoughtful about my response, right? But I've also been in the ones where that there is no gap. It's straight stimulus and response. And I'll tell you what, so I can relate to that. I remember one time I was in AAA Case, and I had struck out whatever, or 3 strikeouts, I don't know. And it was in Toledo, and I was inside by where the cage was underneath the stands, and I was beating the crap out of this like water jugs. Boom, boom. And it's making this like incredible sound, and it's so satisfying to me. I'm like, boom, boom, taking out my hand on this thing, pop. And sure enough, brother, here comes Pamela with my baby daughter walking down the hall, Papa. I could.
Wow.
And my wife, Pamela, like stands there, looks at me in the action of destruction, okay? Total beating the everything out of this jug. And my daughter is like sitting there looking at me. I was so embarrassed, man.
Wow. So
embarrassed. And I think that immediately kind of like triggers something. It's like, hey man, like this is absolutely unacceptable. And my daughter was a little baby, but not only did I apologize to my wife after the game, but I went up to my daughter and was like, babe, I'm so sorry, sweetheart. Like I don't ever want you to see that. And number one, that's I just had to tell that story because I'd be lying to you if I told you that I always lived in that gap between stimulus and response. No, I've been to the point where there was absolutely zero gap. You can ask the guy at Richmond in AAA, by the way. I destroyed one of his urinals with a
urinals, yeah.
That was next to horrible. It's like a famous story, because then I had to buy him a urinal. It was right. I don't know if you remember Richmond. Richmond
Yes.
was like right next to the dugout, like right there.
Yep.
It got destroyed, and the thing's like pumping water the whole game. You know, it feels like flooding the dugout, and we're still playing the game like in the fifth inning, and we have no toilet anymore. You know,
I think urinals take the most abuse in the minors and the big leagues. The urinals, you know what I mean?
it feels good when you like. Don't do it.
Don't.
So great, Los. So great. So Los, so after you're in Boston, I think this is where, you know, your party kind of starts. You know, we talked about Harvey, all that stuff, but like 2007, you come to the Rays as a backup player. Like, hey man, you'd be a good lefty off the bench, you know, and you kind of get off to a slow start in April, but all of a sudden in May, you take off and you look back at your numbers. I believe I have these correct. I believe you hit 282 with 46 home runs. Am I right? With 121 RBIs, basically in 5 months. What flipped for you, bro?
Hey, how about that? How about this? You know, we're talking about the movies earlier and the characters in the movie and what your favorite movie is like. You know, I remember going to that camp and I had already been, you know, with the Red Sox. They didn't sign me back. So I'm in the middle of this like void where I'm thinking to myself, am I going to be playing professional baseball next year? Like, I don't even know. And that story is ridiculously crazy. Talking about how God opens up doors. You know, I don't hesitate to say that because I remember I get a call January 23rd. Get a call from Scott Boras. Scott says, hey, I have an invitation for you to go to spring training. I'm like, wow, an invitation? Like, there's no guarantee. He's like, no, there's no guarantee. That morning, I actually read Psalm 23, by the way, because that was the Psalm that was, you know, it's January 23rd. So I'm thinking, okay, Psalm 23, not a coincidence. They picked it because of the day, whatever. But then when the clubhouse manager calls me and says, hey, Carlos, so, hey, welcome to the Rays. So you're going to be coming as an invitee. Look, we don't have any numbers for you. And, you know, there's only one number left. So
come on.
To choose. And I'm like, no, I don't care. Like, whatever. You just give me what you got. He goes, the only number I have is 23. That's when I was like, okay. You know,
all right, Lord.
You know what I'm saying? I got you. Let's go. So here we go again. He's telling me, show up for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm thinking to myself, show up for me.
Just keep going. Just keep going. Just keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah.
So I went into spring training. I was like backing up people. I was like, like finishing up games. So guys used to leave in the first bus. I will finish the game for them. You know, that's what I was doing in spring training. Didn't really do too well. You know, didn't do horrible, but I didn't hit a home run in spring training. I didn't.
Wow.
I was just kind of like holding my own, hit like 270, you know, a couple hits here and there, and finish the games for everybody, you know. So the last day of spring training, they call me in the office and they say, you know, this was a Friday. Season started on a Monday. We started in New York, right, and with the Yankees. And Scott, here is Joe Madden and Andrew Friedman. They tell me, Carlos, look, man, you know, there's nothing you did wrong. We just don't have any space for you. You know, we don't have any space for you. So we're gonna have to cut you. And I was like, I don't believe you guys. Now, mind you, in my mind, I'm thinking, there's no way. 23, that's a sign I'm in it, and I'm already thanking God that I'm on this team. In my mind, I'm thinking this. My expression to them is like, no. I already saw myself in New York opening day. Like, it has to happen. I don't believe what you guys are saying. And they look at me like I'm crazy. And he goes, Carlos, you need to pick up your locker. You know, we're not keeping you. So I'm like, all right, I'll see you on Monday. I decided to be crazy. In that moment, Case, I decided to be crazy. And I had to tell you the story because it's crazy.
This is unbelievable. This is incredible.
I told him, I will be there on Monday. Okay. I don't know how. So Carlos, we don't have any space for you. Sorry, but you know, like, I get it. I understand. I appreciate your positive outlook. But in my mind, I'm thinking this is more than being positive. I'm not being just positive. Okay.
Right.
I just have this conviction and this, I know it's going to happen for me. Sure enough, guys, I pick up my stuff calmly. I give like the most amazing speech before I leave. The, you know, like the reporters are asking me and people tell me that was the craziest interview from a player who just got cut. Right. They still tell me that. I'm like, hey, man, I really believed it. Or I decided made a decision to believe it, And I picked up my stuff and I walked out like certain that I was going to be there on Monday. Kid you not, I'm in Orlando already in my couch, cut. I don't even have a team because the contract got torn up. And they started sending me text messages. And my wife's cousin, who was with me, he goes, get your messages. They're sounding. And I'm like, no, don't rush to it. Calm. So what's going on? It's like, I told him, it's happening. He goes, what are you talking about? It's like, it's happening. The door's opening. Sure enough, guys, I looked up at the text and it says, Greg Norton has suffered an injury. They needed a first baseman back immediately because they didn't have one for opening day, or they needed one more player. And immediately I thought to myself, look, this is a great opportunity. Here it is, and I'm sure that Greg is going to be fine when he returns. He's going to be just fine. But I'm on the team now.
Right.
I signed back.
I told you.
Wow. Brand new contract. Wow. Like I had to re-sign. I was already at home. I re-signed. Sure enough, I went back to Tampa. I walked in the clubhouse, and I'm sitting there. I'm thinking to myself, God, you are, your sense of humor is unbelievable. This is so like funny. And at the same time, I'm like, this is a movie. Like, this is awesome. This is a story. And I was on the line, national anthem. I saw the planes in New York go by in opening day. And I'm like, wow, okay, I get it. So now you could imagine, you asked me what clicked for me. You could imagine the attitude I had. You know what I'm saying? I was in this attitude of gratitude, right? Like, what did I have to lose, man? It's like God put me there. Only He can remove me. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, all I got to do is show up and put it in, right? Like give it all I have, because everything else was going to fall into place. I don't even know if you can, it's almost impossible to replicate what I was feeling because the circumstances got me there, so it's difficult to fake that or to, replicate that. You can be grateful, yes, but not like that. Like, it was an intrinsic
like a surrender,
intrinsic gratitude where it was visceral, bro. It was not, in my mind. It was like in every atom of my body, bro. Wow. I went out there. I kid you not. I was like, here we go, baby. When I got my chance, Case, it was over. I did not stop hitting. It was like, there's nothing you can do to me. I'm gonna crush you. Confidence was through the roof because I was doing, I was showing up, and I knew that the opportunity had opened. It wasn't me who opened that opportunity per se. It was God who opened the door. And then all I have to do is just walk through it firmly, confidently, hardworking, and everything was going to be okay. It was more than okay. It was an unbelievable year.
46 homers, 121 RBIs, 411 on base percentage.
How many and over 1,000 OPS, I believe. And how many games, Chinch? It was like 140 games. It wasn't even that many games.
148. You weren't even fully there.
148 games.
I didn't even play in April. In April, right. I got, a few at bats. I got to May. That's when I really started playing. And there was a clause in my contract saying, like, if they keep me beyond May, I think it was May 20th, then the contract locked in. So it was an incentive for them to send me back down. But I was like, I'm not worried about it. Yeah. I wasn't. I was like, whatever. I breezed through that deadline because they couldn't send me down. I was crushing. I was dominating. Yeah. So that year right there, wow. And that's my career right there. Like, after that year, everything changed, and here come the Rays. And I don't hesitate to say that was the moment that Rays baseball changed. And I very proudly say that was part of that cultural shift.
Well, I saw it firsthand, Los. I'm still pissed off about you. I was with the Red Sox in 08. You beat us in 7 games, so I'm still a little pissed about that. That's a whole nother situation. I try not to hold grudges, stimulus and response. You know what I mean? But yes. It's funny because, dude, I watching you just changed the way you did. And talk about perspective. And now it's so funny because how many times, like, talk about Mookie Betts, we talk about Carlos Peña, the perspective changed a little bit. It's kind of a surrender to say, hey, listen, the rest is gravy, bro. I'm here for a reason. Let me go have some fun. Let me see the ball and hammer it. And if for anyone out there that hasn't watched Carlos Peña hit a baseball, the baseball scream like Jim Thome. When Jim Thome hits one, it's like, ah! Well, the same thing when Carlos Peña hits a baseball. It's like it goes zipping by your head at. You know, so I watched it firsthand, Los, of you go to this other level of like, you know, you were the home run leader in 2009. You hit 46 in 2007, 2008. You also had a monster year, big postseason, 3 home runs, 6 RBIs. So I want to fast forward of you're a huge cog in that wheel of that 08 run. You know, like I said, we lost to you guys when I was with the Red Sox in Game 7. But wow, BJ Upton had an unbelievable series. You did. Longoria. You know, it was his coming out party. You know, what was it like in that 2008 Rays team that went to the World Series? And you know, what was it like just, you know, being kind of now one of the best hitters on that team?
Yeah, man, that was amazing. Like one of the things that one of the greatest memories of my baseball career was that 2008 season. Because I usually say, hey, that's the most fun I've had playing baseball ever, like including Little League. Like I don't think I've had that much fun as a ball player. And that says a lot because we're in the big leagues. There's a lot of stake, you know, there's a lot of pressure. But I felt like a kid. And this is the thing. I was so emotionally invested, Case. And that's one of the greatest things about me. Probably one of my greatest strengths, probably also one of my greatest weaknesses, because when you get so emotionally invested, you know, you can get into trouble, you know, because the pain hurts more. Right. Yeah, you celebrate the fun. Like you have more fun than anybody else in the world, right? But at the same time, when it hurts, and it cuts you deep. When we lost that World Series, man, I wasn't that bust like if the world had ended, you know what I mean? Talk about not having a healthy perspective, you know. I was devastated, Logo, devastated. But yeah, man, that series, I really believe that the reason why we ended up, one of the reasons why we ended up losing the World Series to the Phillies was because that series against the Red Sox, 7 games, all, you know, back and forth, nuts, just took everything out of us. The Phillies were sitting back waiting for us. So when we were done with that series, Case, we were exhausted. I remember going to the line and during the World Series, and I'm like looking around, and I'm like, we need to wake up, man. Like, we're dead. Let's go, you know. And I felt down. So it was so intense. It almost seems like the World Series for us was the American League Championship Series. Yeah. You guys, so intense.
5 of the 7 games were within 2 runs. 5 of the 7 games. And Game 5. If you go back to the 2016 World Series when Joe Madden kept keeping Chapman in the game with like a 7-run lead, the reason he did that is because you got to go back to the 2008 playoffs, ALCS. I believe Carlos and Tampa Bay were up against up 7-0 against the Red Sox in the 7th. And all of a sudden, Big Papi goes deep. J.D. Drew goes deep. It's like Jed Lowry. Next thing you know, it's like 7-7. We end up winning that game 8-7. Do you remember that, Los, in that Game 5? Oh. You guys had it, and all of a sudden, now we're going back to Tampa for 6.
And you got to remember that this is 2008. 2004, was it? The great comeback of the Red Sox against the Yankees. Right. So here come the comeback artists, right? The Red Sox. We should have won it in 5 games. Wrap it, take it to the house. We were up 7-0. What was it, 7th inning, Case?
Yeah, going into the 7th.
Here they come, the Red Sox at Fenway. Boom, chipping away. Boom, Placata, Big Papi. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. J.D. Drew. Boom. I'm like, are you serious? What's happening here? Like, I couldn't stop it. Like, you want to like stop the momentum, but we couldn't. We end up losing that game. You should have seen us in that plane ride. Going back home, everybody was like quiet. And that Rays team was never quiet on the plane. And this time, it's like a cemetery in there. I go up to Joe Madden in the front of the plane. And I'm like, hey, Joe, listen, man, we need to call a meeting tomorrow. Seriously, like we need to like somehow, some way, like put a pause on this negative avalanche that's getting all over us.
And by the way, you were flying home to face Beckett. You were flying home to face Beckett.
Think about that. I'm like, we need to talk about this, man. And Joe, trying to be the stoic that he is, he's like, no, I'm not calling a meeting. We'll be fine. I'm like, Joe, we need to call a meeting. He says, no, fine. We practice. Guess what? We lost game 6. Now, next day I walk into the clubhouse. Their newspaper says the comeback artist Red Sox. Here they come. First of all, I grabbed the whole entire stack of papers. I grabbed them like this, picked them up and threw them in the garbage. Garbage. Boom. Like, if I'm the clubhouse manager, like, I got to talk to Westy about this. I'm like, why would you do that? Like, why would you even put that? I didn't understand it. I'm like, are you like in our favor or what? I threw them in the garbage and I said, I'm calling a meeting. Now, I'm not saying that that's why we were able to turn around, but I needed to at least be okay with me, with myself, look in the mirror. I needed to call a meeting. So I called a meeting. I'm like, listen, guys, this is what it comes down to. Let's win every single pitch. That what happened to us these last 2 games stuck. We got our butts whooped, okay? In Fenway, and again yesterday, today, clean slate. And the message was, things are not linear. Usually you go like this, but at the end of the day, we have one goal. So let's win every pitch. So all that matters is this pitch. Talk about being present.
Wow.
Well, no, wait a minute. Let me keep you right there. So you go there, top of the first inning, boom, Pedroia hits a solo jack.
Yeah.
Now where's your head at?
And they're facing Lester, and right. Lester's going obviously against Garza too. They're both kind of workhorses at the time.
Yeah,
and if you remember, Case, I used to always go into the mound, and I used to try to talk to my pitchers because I believed in momentum. So, boom, home run, Pedroia. I'm like, dude, got to talk to Garza. You got to go in there. You got to go in there and say something, like break it up. Be like, all right, this pitch, like that already happened. Deep breath, this pitch. Here we go, this pitch. And even when I was at bat, I was like, ball, okay, done, this pitch, really, really just taking it pitch by pitch because we were trying to win every single pitch thrown.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, when we ended up winning that ball game, I was mentally exhausted. Like I was done because I truly, followed that mentality. And I think all the guys did. We ended up winning that game, and here we go to the World Series. I remember I enjoyed that so much. That victory right there, it just took everything out of us.
Yeah.
World Series it's not that exciting.
Well, at least you got there, bro. You know what I mean? At least you got there. And, I was in the 2006 World Series and we lost 2, and people were like, oh, you didn't get that ring. And I said, no, I got an American League Championship ring that says I was one of the last 2 teams in the World Series. So, it's still an unbelievable feeling. It's funny what you say there, Los, because, I think about, how hard it is to get to that level and to get to the World Series and to do it, especially with you, man, like the way your career evolved, the time in Tampa for you from 2007 to 2010. And, your career, obviously you played in a few different places towards the end and even back in Tampa in 2012. And what a great run. You've been at MLB Network for the last 8 years, which has been amazing. And, when you look back at your career, is there a word or two that you could summarize and say, this is how I feel about it?
Oof. I'm one of those guys, a word or two. That's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Like, is it gratitude?
Gratitude is one of them. Gratitude is one of them for sure. And tenacity.
Oh, yeah.
Gratitude and tenacity. I say if we're tenacious and we keep on fighting, man, we just relentless, man. Relentless. Then doors open, doors open. So those 2 things, always with an attitude of gratitude and having that tenacity to keep it going, despite, in the book, The Greatest Salesman in the World, there's something that resonated with me immediately. And I think it just stayed with me. it talks about, I will persist until I succeed. And that is scroll mark number 3 on this book. It's a beautiful story. Bottom line is this. It talks about that young bulls in the Orient, right, are their bravery in the arena when they go the bullfighting, they're tested by a picador who pricks them with a lance, right? So that's the way they test these young bulls for the fight arena. They prick him with a lance, and they test the bull's bravery based on how many times the bull charges forward despite the sting of the blade. Okay? So they prick him, lance inside their body, and the bull charges. Another lance, the bull charges. The bull's relentless. And says, I will succeed. I will persist until I succeed. That was the mentality. Despite the sting of the blade of a failure, despite the sting of the blade of a rejection, despite the sting of a blade of a bad break, you have to have tenacity and keep coming, like keep charging, just like that bull. I think tenacity and gratitude are pillars, I would say, and have been pillars in my life ever since I could remember.
Bro, that is so good, man. Such a good way to, to kind of put a bow on this amazing time that we've had with you. Chinch and I do one final thing. We do this little thing called 9 and 90. Chinch will ask me a question, and then I'll answer, then you'll answer. Just kind of a fun little thing we do.
Uh-oh. Yeah. No, trust me, this is going to be a lot dumber than our Columbia University talk. And I will say, and real quick, by the way, I love you so much, Carlos. You're such a great friend. Thank you for doing this, buddy.
I miss seeing you every day.
I'm with you too. Okay, now for the stupidity. You ready?
Hall of Fame baseball broadcaster Marty Brennaman here. It's time for 9 in 90, the most ridiculous segment in all of sports.
Easy one to start. Month with no hot water, Sean, or a month with no electricity. What are you choosing?
Oh, bro, I'll take a month with no hot water. I like to take cold showers, so I'll take it.
What about you, Carlos?
I need the electricity.
I would say, I will go with you, Sean. I like cold. That's one of my routines, actually. Cold water, man.
I do that too. At the end, I shock myself. Oh, it's great.
My father used to say that. Hey, man, cold showers get you ready. You have to get ready.
I always say, I love it, dude. Do something hard every day. I'm like, give me a 2-minute cold shower and just, here we go, baby. That's all.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about.
All right, here's a tough one. Would you rather bite your own toenails or bite someone else's fingernails, Sean?
Oh man! Well, if I had the flexibility to bite my own toenails, I obviously can't. So it's not going to work out good because they're my toenails. I don't really want to bite other people's nails, but I'll do it. If I can't get to my own toenails, I'll bite other people's nails if I have to. Wait! What are the circumstances? Am I going to be shot or something if I don't do it?
I mean, nice pass, right? Like that's one of those that you're like, just
it's
like I lose. Like I don't want to do any of those.
I don't want to do any of that. I don't want to do any of that.
No.
All right, good.
I don't even know if there's a good choice there.
You're right.
There's not.
No.
Isn't there like A, B, or none of the above? I'm gonna go none of the above.
There you go. All right, good. All right, this is a good one. Would you rather be the best dart thrower in the world or the best billiards player in the world?
Billiards. Billiards is just cool. I think it's cooler than dart throwing.
I need, there's a lot of dart throwing going on here at Marquee Sports Network. I would choose dart.
Okay.
With a couple people, I need to let them know what's up.
Yeah, I like that. I just got a forward to it.
Who, Los? Who are the best dart throwers there?
Nick Steger's nasty.
Is it?
Steger. Yeah, Steeks is. Well, you know how Steeks is. Steeks,
yeah, he tries to. He masters everything that you can do, and like he was the best at the basketball hoop that we put up on a wall, and he's just really good at the stuff you can do around the house.
Yeah, he dominates. It's unbelievable to me. So I really need to teach Nick Steger a lesson.
Oh, good.
Yes. So I went and on a side note, I went and saw Steger play like softball in a softball league one night. He's like, I was at the network. He's like, come on by. Me and Amelia are playing in the softball league. I went, dude, he dominated. I'm like, this guy was like 4 for 4, made a couple backhanded plays. I'm like, it's unbelievable. So you're not going to beat him at darts, Los. There's no chance.
He's a playmaker, man. He's a playmaker.
Yeah. He'll tell you that himself too. By the way, I love you, Nick. All right, next one. Would you rather sit front row at a concert where you don't know any of the music or the last row of your favorite musician? So like the nosebleeds.
Probably the last row of my favorite musician, because nowadays they got those big freaking TV screens where you can still be in in the nosebleeds and still like, oh, okay, at least I can see the screen,
I would agree. Yeah, I want to go to my favorite musician. As a matter of fact, I've done it already, where I have to be outside the stadium just listening to the music.
I've done that. That's good. Okay. All right, this is interesting. You get a
Plus,
job.
I'll find a way to sneak in.
That's right.
You couldn't sneak in. You couldn't sneak in,
Fenway. All right. Would you? You get a job on a farm, Sean. Would you prefer milking the cows or mowing the grass?
Probably mowing the grass.
Okay. What if it was a hand mower?
They're milking the cows. Milking the cows.
What about you, Carlos?
I know driving was a lot more attractive.
All right, couple more here. Oh wait, you didn't give your answer yet. What do you got?
I would say milk the cow. I actually used to do that when I used to go to my mom's house in the countryside in DR. So it'll bring back beautiful memories. So I'll do that.
Really?
That's nice.
Yeah.
Los, I got a question for you, bro. This is a serious question. Where does the heavy cream come from? Seriously. No, seriously, dude. My kids asked me the other day, we get this heavy cream from this local farm, and they're like, where's the heavy cream come from? I was like, I don't know, guys. It's delicious in my coffee. That's all I know.
Yeah, man. I think it has something to do with pasteurization
Pasteurization
or not, right?
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a great question.
You know what? I'm gonna research that.
Find out where the heavy cream comes from.
That's gonna bug me now. That's gonna bug me. I need to figure out where the heavy cream comes from. That's gonna be answered.
Case, would you rather hit 400 in a season or break the single season home run record?
I'd rather hit 400. Because, Ted Williams is the greatest of all time, last guy to do it. I think that would be something that it just would be phenomenal.
Yeah, for me, it would be breaking the plaque of that record. Now, I gotta say this. I was thinking about this on the plane. Who thinks about this stuff? I don't know why I think about it, but there is. Sean, would you say that there is a false dichotomy between finesse and power when it comes to hitting? Like, why do we assume that if you are a finesse hitter, you can't hit for power, and if you're a power hitter, you can't hit for finesse, for high average? Right. I disagree. I totally disagree.
I disagree too. You can be both. I got a question for you off that, Los, because I want you to. I want to try and get my kids to listen to this. They're both playing college baseball. How many home runs did you hit when you were trying to hit them?
The right answer is none, and people don't believe me. They don't believe me when I say this. Let me explain what I mean. I never try to hit a home run. I did what I needed to do because I knew that increased my chances of hitting a home run. So, for example, I used to think I want to get to this spot on, hit the baseball on this contact point with this pitch that I'm looking for. Now, I knew that if I did that, the home run was going to be more likely. But I never, I'm going to hit a home run. No.
Never.
Or let me get to this spot nice and clean and on time. That was more of the thought process. And they're like, no, you tried. I'm like, no, I'm serious.
No. And what would happen when you tried to hit a home run? What if you were like, it had to be a couple times, like, I'm going deep here?
I would top the ball. I would top it. I would hit those top spin, rockets, but they're top spinning into the shift, and I was out.
Yeah.
All the time. So you cannot put the carriage before the horse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the process, right? The process.
Hit the ball hard. Home runs are mistakes. Hit the ball hard. You catch it out front, it's going to go.
Yeah, exactly. If you are on time, you are optimizing your mechanics, right? Like if you're going to be on time, you're optimizing your mechanics. So if you have a nice, clean, optimized swing, your chances are increased that you're going to drive the ball somewhere. If you miss slightly underneath the ball, which by the way, happens without you trying. Right. Okay? Don't get me started on this launch angle stuff. People trying to lift the ball. Okay? No. If you get there on time, you have a round bat and a round ball, and you're on time, then you're gonna miss some over, you're gonna miss some under, and you're gonna hit some, middle. Not too often, but you're gonna hit some middle. Guess what? The ones that you're slightly under and you're perfectly on time, those are the home runs. That's it. Let's not make it more complicated than that.
from a guy that's led the league in home runs. So that's all. Sorry, Chinch. I didn't mean to. I had to ask him that before we go because I need people to understand that point right
That's
there.
great. It's perfect. It segues right into my most messed up question I have for you guys. What would be worse for you? Reading your mom's diary from when she was a teenager or reading your significant other's diary when she was a teen? Wait, I'm sorry. Reading your mom's diary from when she was a teenager or reading your daughter's diary now?
Oh my God.
Oh God.
Jess gave me that question. Jess gave me that.
Why don't you answer this first, Carlos? First time ever. Why don't you answer?
No, I think I have a good answer for this.
Okay.
I think I would rather read my mom's diary. The reason being, and this is going to be simple, I would think I'm intruding if I went into my daughter's diary.
Right.
But I think I would be getting to know my mother fully if I read her diary when she was younger. So I feel better that way. Yeah.
This is why Carlos is the greatest guy, because he took the worst thing ever and made it so eloquent and beautiful.
I love that answer. And I'm gonna ride Carlos's coattails on that because it's such a great answer. Exactly what he said is my answer.
All right, perfect. All right, we got through 9 and 90.
Makes sense, right? It makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. It's beautiful. Thank you. That's it. That's 9 and 90 for the day.
Oh, that's it. All right. Hey, Los, man, like we said, brother, we love you, man. I'll see you up at the network here soon. But, so grateful you took the time to come on with us today, man. Just really, really awesome.
Guys, the pleasure is mine. I cannot even tell you how much fun I've had. I think it has shown. It's evident how much fun I've had.
Yes.
Yes,
Awesome,
dude.
buddy.
Thank you, man. Love you, brother.
Love you, buddy.
Thank you, guys. Love you, too.
Oh, man, Chinch, that was awesome, dude. That was awesome. I mean, you talk about a guy, I always think, I love the line, leaders are readers. And you're with Carlos Peña, you're like, man, this guy's got something about him that's very intellectual, good-looking dude, jacked, but all that stuff. But you're like, so much to him. And then you start to hear, oh, yeah, I read all the time. I do this like, oh, okay,
Right.
It makes sense again, boom.
Yeah,
that fits.
Yeah, like Renaissance man, but not necessarily for anything else, but like, let me be as intelligent as I can. Let me be as good of a person as I can. Let me treat this the right way. I mean, there are not many better people that I know. I love him. My wife Jess loves him. He's been a great friend from the second I met him, and like humble, but like I think he has the greatest combination of like, it's not cockiness, because it's not it's not arrogance or cockiness. It's like the process you guys are talking about. Like, I have done everything I can to get to this point, so your chest can come out more because you put the work in. So there's humility to the strength you have. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's that inner trust that confidence builds, and confidence comes from the process of not only in baseball but in life. I like how he says, "Hey, I'm going after my master's degree. I still got the new learning. I wake up every morning. I exercise. I eat right. Hey, maximizing himself as a human being, taking care of his energy, taking care of his workplace, and taking care of his love. Awesome interview, dude. What a great, wonderful guy, wonderful friend. Can't wait to see him next week at the network. But awesome stuff, Chinch.
Yeah, bro.
Did it again, man. Just so grateful for this show.
Me too.
And really grateful for all the people that are listening and watching. Like I said, we see our numbers moving. We appreciate it. Download, subscribe, all that stuff. If you could, if you like what we're doing, leave us a review. And we're going to keep going. And like Harvey Dorfman says, brother, be good to yourself, man.
Too, brother.
Love you, Chinchy. See you, buddy.